Hi, this is Johannes. Never tried making a little movie like this before, so we'll see how it goes. I want to talk a bit about how connections matter. Um, I'm with Spectrum Learning, and I'm the Director of Research, Training, and Development. Uh, I guess we probably about 5 years ago now, 5 or 6 years ago, we started a first little tiny project in which we looked at the relationships that people with disabilities had, and it was a very small project. We had like I think eight people, and we looked at half of them were people with great networks, and we wanted to know how they got those networks and how it worked for them, and the other half were people who had no discernible networks, and we wanted to know what was happening for them. And learned a couple of things. One was that even though that was a real focus for our agency, we weren't as good at it as we thought we were. And this was true of all of the projects around the province. There were 4 of them, so 3 other ones. And we all learned that a thing that we thought we were pretty good at was not necessarily so. And that some of what we did actually distanced people. It made it harder for folks to have friends and to have their family over. And that learning was kind of really exciting because it opened up lots of possibilities. Once we knew what we were doing, we could make some changes. Started making changes, and it became really central to everything that Spectrum was doing. And since then has grown into really like 5 different projects and a little publishing company. We put out books and media that are about people and interdependence, and why people should have relationships, and why it matters. So these are, if you're looking at the right slide, which I don't know, but if you are, these are 2 artists with disabilities who were part of a quilt making project that happened in Ireland. And I like that these 2 little pieces of quilt, I think they're like squares, and then they sewed them all together. And Mary Balfe says her picture is about walking shoes because she likes to walk around and go to the park and the shops, and it not only gets her exercise, but she meets nice people when she's walking. And then Raymond Powell is using, I think these are pick symbols, and to say that he likes to have fun and he has a right to do that and a right to be happy with his friends. And so I think that's important, that in all of the conversations we've had with all of the self-advocates that we've met, and this goes right down from, we've given presentations in Nashville, Tennessee, right up to the far north. And all of the folks that we've met say that this is a really important thing for them, and their families say that this is important. Unfortunately, a lot of the information that's out there is really kind of dense. It's a bit hard to read, and there's some amazing, great books and some really new information, particularly in the field of interpersonal neurobiology, which is like how the brain works. I'm going to talk a bit about that in a second. But I guess, one of the things that people started realizing about 50 years ago was that our society was really changing, and we were doing more and more things alone. I don't know that that particularly has to do with the internet. That would be one argument. But I think it just has to do with, living differently. And in fact, the internet might be helping us be more connected than we have been for a while. But that hasn't actually made us more healthy. It's made us less healthy. So then there is some really easy information that's designed for people with disabilities. And this is a book that I illustrated, in which we created with 3 different groups of self-advocates. It's based on some information from Community Living BC. And this is Support Networks, a guide for self-advocates. So the interesting thing about, I guess for me, one of the interesting things about finding out more and more about, from the research around connectedness, is the idea that when people are not connected, they are actually less likely to be successful in a few ways. One of those ways is health. And so even just strictly talking about health, people who are more connected end up being ill less. When they do get ill, they recover better, they relapse less frequently, they get out of the hospital sooner. There was a study done about 20 years ago in BC that demonstrated that folks with disabilities who had an evident network of support were safer in the hospital system because the people in the hospital would just really make sure that they were taken care of because they knew that people's moms and friends were around. And so that's part of it. The thing that happens is that they're finding out that our brains and our hearts and our veins and all the parts of our body, our hormonal parts, are all kind of connected with each other. So the more connected we are, the better our brain works, and then the better our blood moves through our systems. So a few things happen. We become less likely to heart disease, less likely to wear and tear, more likely to live longer and to have a better quality of life. And I think that this is one really important thing that I've discovered, is that our executive functioning becomes better and the more connected we are. So that means that we can make better decisions and we can answer questions for ourselves and ask the right questions better. So there's a way in which the less connected people are, the more we're kind of disabling them, and the more that we can help them be connected, the more we're enabling them. So I guess a lot of this information can seem really overwhelming. There's really a lot of stuff out there, a lot of conversations, and some of it makes you feel pretty vulnerable. We've given more than 100 workshops, and a lot of our work is around this area. And we've had everything from mothers starting to cry because they find they don't have a network, to people with disabilities, feeling really, really alone, and then realizing by the end of the session that they actually have lots of people in their life, and staff standing up and saying, "Whoa, I just realized my life totally sucks." So it can get a little fraught. And we can feel like there's a lot of pressure on us to do something right away or to do everything right away, and then pile on all these books and pile on all the exercises and the websites and all the conversations. And luckily we don't need to do that. Luckily we can start with a really short list and just do the first thing on the list. And every time we meet somebody who's really, really good at this, and has lots of successful relationships, we like to seize the opportunity to kind of interview them and find out, what did you do that made this work so well? And they always, always, always say, we started with one thing. And, one of my favorite stories is this woman who arrived in town with her kid who had a really significant disability, and was like, "Oh, we don't know anybody," and then decided that she would just do the next thing that happened. The next time somebody said, "We need someone to do this," she and her son were going to offer to do whatever it was. And that happened to be on Sunday when they were at church, they needed somebody to distribute the church flyers. And so she and her son started doing that. And he developed this incredible network of people just from that one decision. Another story that I like a lot, that's a bit more even recent, was a day program that's run by a colleague of mine. And the day program had a bunch of people in it, and they did things that were sort of recreational. This is a picture of a girl who doesn't want to play with crayons, and some people in the back. And he thought, I guess he started thinking about supported employment, and thought, employment is great for a bunch of reasons. It helps people be more connected. It helps them be less vulnerable because they have other people watching out for them. Helps them to have more money, more sense of themselves, more sense of pride. And so they did the thing where they decided to get together, and at all of the person-centered planning meetings, they were going to invite their networks and families in, and they were going to say to them, we believe that this girl, say her name is Margaret, would really like to work. We wondered what you thought of that. Who do you know that might be able to help with this? And within a year, 80% of those people had got some kind of supported employment because those networks had resources that the agency didn't have, that nobody else has. And the people that Margaret knew had all kinds of great ideas. There was one of them that was one of my favorite stories, was about a family who said, "Do you mean he could go back to work? Because we actually had to stop that job because he was coming to your day program." The thing about the folks in the room, the network of support, is that they're kind of part of the network, but those people all have their own connections. So there's this almost infinite richness of people that you can go to with your questions about, what could Margaret do? What kind of job might she do? And they'll have ideas that nobody else has. They'll have some great ideas. So if we've got the timing right here, you're looking at a picture of a guy leaning towards sort of a thinking cloud full of people. And, this is a thing that I tell people all the time, is that we don't maybe even need to do anything except clarify our intention. If our intention is to be more connected with people, we just need to start leaning that way. And just know that that's where we're going. That's where we're heading towards. And if that happens, if we're leaning towards that, the next time that we have an opportunity, we'll be carrying an address book and we'll write somebody's name down. Or when we're thinking, gee, I need to phone somebody, we'll have a phone that works for us and be able to call them and say, do you want to go to a movie? Or we'll have a Facebook account and we'll be able to connect with people there. We'll do whatever the next thing is, just that one next thing. I guess one of the things that we realized in the process of this project for all the organizations was not just that we weren't that great at helping people make friends, but we were actually doing things that were kind of distancing people by sending them a really clear message that, we had to be careful. This was this person with all these vulnerabilities, and we were, one of the things I think is really hard about that is that often that person's parents was really surprised that we weren't working on the relationships. And sometimes the agencies were surprised the parents weren't working on it. So there was a real need for a lot of communication. And the communication was easy because it was so important for people. It mattered so much to them that we sort this out that nobody really seemed to take much personally. And so we're just coming to the end now. And I just wanted to point out that in this idea is of people needing to be more connected, is coming up in immigration and with senior citizens and all over the country, and people in urban areas, people in rural areas. Almost everywhere that you go, people will be talking about how can we be more connected and have deeper and more expansive relationships. And I'm thinking, from what we've discovered, that people with disabilities could even be leaders in this field. It's important for us to figure out how it is that they know what they know, but they know a lot, and we just need to figure out how to find out what it is they know and then share it. If you're interested in any of the books or resources, if you go to books on my website, imagineacircle.com, or if you go to 101friends.ca, there's a site, I think it's called Publications, and there's a link to books that we like. So those are a couple places, and thanks very much, and good luck.